So I let me pull up something real quick. So I was gone all weekend. First off, let me just introduce a few things. I have bumping my mic. Sorry about that, guys. A little bit closer so you guys can see it. I have a deer antler right here, which is a new addition to the studio. Quotes. I call it a studio, but it's just the corner of my bedroom. My bed's right there, which I don't really sleep at my house pretty much anymore. I basically don't really live here. I'm here lately. I haven't stayed a night here in months. I think it's been like 3 or 4 months. So it's been a long time since I stayed here. But I got a bed over there, and then I have like the rest of the room stuff. But this is the corner of my bedroom. You guys can see right here, I have a door handle. That's my closet. So for the decoration, I didn't want anything I wanted everything to represent me. So this is what we got. So I have here, which is the blue line, which I've talked about before, which is my parent. I grew up with my mom and dad, and they were both police officers. They actually met in the academy. And here's a quick funny story. So I can't wait to get my dad on the episodes. I keep looking at my laptop, which is something I want to talk about in a second. But here's a quick funny story I think you guys might find entertaining. So they met in the academy. My mom, I think she comes from a family of 8. If you ask my grandmother, who passed away recently, which I can get into recently, I think like 2016. But so my mom comes from a family of 8. One of her sisters, I think, passed away at birth. So I don't know if she was a stillborn, but I think there was complications at birth, and so she passed away. So there's 6 other kids. So she says she comes. Well, she says she comes from a family of 7. I think 4 sisters, 2 brothers. I know most of them really well. I don't know them as well. I guess as some family members do. So she comes from a family. My grandma would say a family of 8. Her mom. She would say a family of 7. I need to get her on the podcast too. I think it'd be really cool to get my mother and my father on a podcast. So let me just keep that like that for a second. So she came from that, and she grew up in a impoverished area, and she was the last. She's the youngest kid. I think she's 52 or 53, and I don't know. Like, I don't think you're supposed to share women's age, but that's her age, and I don't think she's embarrassed about it because she's a fucking badass. I give a lot of credit to my mother and my father for being the person that I am. So she, basically her mom, and I think her father passed away when she was 22, so my grandfather, and he was a veteran of, I want to say World War II. I want to say World War II. So she was born in 67. So yeah, I think she just turned 52, or she just turned 53. Like, her birthday was June 29th. So she was born in 67. I think he passed away when she was 22. So that would have been 1989. I think World War II ended. I just want to make sure I get the right dates. I don't want to be going off of something that's false. And I think my internet just stopped working, which is always fun when that happens. We're in the middle of a podcast, which is always cool. Always cool. I'm just going to connect it to my personal hotspot right now since my internet broke. So 1945 was the end of World War II. So 1989, he would have passed away. She was 22. That means 1989 to 1945, he would have been 44. or 20. I don't know. I can't figure out the math right now. Um, but I'm pretty sure he fought World War II. I think he was old enough. And so she basically was raised by two, but he suffered from really bad PTSD. At least the stories that I've been told by him. And I would say, from my viewpoint, alcoholic. I think some people wouldn't say that, but I would say he was an alcoholic. I think he passed away of lung cancer. He smoked a lot of cigarettes, alcoholic, PTSD, and I guess like aggression. But that's veterans from World War II. I think they weren't given as much care as veterans nowadays, I would say. I'm not saying care nowadays for veterans is anything amazing, but I think they're treated better than World War II. I think we just weren't aware of like the psychological damage that happens from war. So short story. Um, so she was brought up by a dual household up until she was 22, and and all her siblings moved out of the house, so she was basically there with her and her mom, and they became really close. And so she had to find a job. She wasn't going to go to college. She has really bad dyslexia, so she's always struggled in school. And I remember being a child and her reading to me, and just um, it was hard. It hurt me because she couldn't read, as I guess not as well, but as quick. And you could tell like she was like embarrassed from it, and it broke my heart. But I didn't know how to really deal with it at that age, and at that age I didn't. It was basically my mom versus your mom. My mom was a police officer, but I didn't understand much about police at the time, and so I think she just never excelled at school, and a lot of the person I am today is, especially with my thought process on school, I give her credit, and I think she takes it as bad credit, but it's not bad credit. It's good. It's good credit. Geico, save some money. Good credit. Anyways, so she, after high school, it was kind of survive. What are you gonna do? I think my grandmother spent her life being a secretary, and so she had to look for a job, and I think one thing led to another, and she just was filling out applications. Or sorry, she went to college for, I think, a half a semester at University of Maryland, Maryland. And I remember when I was younger, I was young. I was like 8 to 12, around that age, maybe younger. They try to both go back to college to get some type of certification um, at PGCC, which is Prince George's Community College. This is a local community college around where I live, um, and they just couldn't complete it. You know, they have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. It's hard to do that. The full-time police officers working night shifts. Um, but long story short, that's where she came from. So she just had to look for a job. So she filled an application. Boom, bam. One thing led to another. She started at University of Maryland's Police Academy, University of Maryland campus, cop. And then she got offered a position at where she was working, which I don't think I can say the police station. I don't want to risk anything. So one thing led to another. So she went there to that academy. Then you have my father here, who comes from a family of two siblings, my aunt, so his sister, who is, I believe, the oldest, his brother, who is my uncle, obviously, who is the middle child, and my dad was the youngest. And my dad he wasn't a bad kid, I would say, but I would say he was a typical teenage boy. And like I said, he can explain everything a lot better when I get him on, when that other microphone comes in, which should be here soon. But so he just needed a job. So he was filling out applications left and right, back and forth, anywhere. It was basically, you get a job, you're not living here anymore. That's kind of how my grandpa was, and my grandma. Very Catholic background, very no bullshit. And my dad, I wouldn't say he was a rebel, but he definitely challenged the status quo. Not in like a hippieist manner, but more or less in a manner of, I'm going to test my boundaries. Once I see my boundaries, I might go a little bit farther. So anyways, so they both end up going to the same police academy. And I guess they sent out like an email, or I don't know if they had email at the time, but they sent out mail, a letter basically saying, hey, when you show up, wear your best, not your best attire, but your casual attire. And my mom, she's a girl, and her mom, I visualize, they haven't told me this, but I visualize them having a conversation like, hey, you got to get this job. My mom's like, I got to get this job. So she dresses nicely and she looks good. She looks pretty. My mom's a beautiful lady, even at her age. Um, so she she dresses well, and so she gets there and blah 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 blah. Everyone's there. Everyone's dressing casual. So like nice slacks, a polo top, but no jeans, no shorts, no short sleeves, no graphic tees, and so class is just about to start, and my dad explained, like I said, they both explained it really well. So class starts, and my mom's sitting up front. She's a kid just firing her hand up all the time. Maybe not getting the answer right most of the time, but definitely still answering the question every time. Um, and even if she's wrong, she's learning. Like she's not just gonna be wrong. Like she wants to learn. But it's hard when you have certain, um, not mental deficiencies, but things that hold you back. It's hard and it's frustrating. And I know it's frustrating because throughout school I had really bad ADHD, and I still do. As you can tell, I've been kind of playing with this thing. Um, right there, got off track again. Um, but so my dad walks in, who's 23, 20. I don't know how old. I think my mom had me when she was 29. I think they were probably 25, 26, maybe 25, 26. Anyways, so they're like 25 and 26, and my dad walks in late. Not late, but like right on time. And you guys got to remember, at this time, being a police officer was like really respected. Like I wouldn't say being a cop nowadays is not respected, but there's a lot more media coverage that's very negative. So it's really hard to be a good cop because people think all cops are bad cops. But at this time, cops are good in this area. I mean, there's definitely racist cops, especially during the 80s, um, like LA riots and whatever stuff like that. Um, but it was like a respected job. My dad was like, he showed up late, and his casual clothing, which is where he came from, was, as he says, I think I got the clothing right. Um, he wore a wife beater, which I don't know if you guys are aware of what a wife beater is. If you're not, look it up real quick. It makes the story a lot funnier. But it's basically a tank top that's really tight. Um, has like, if you look like, just like, if you can just imagine a bunch of zigzags. One second. If you can just imagine like a bunch of zigzags going up and down, that's white. And it's kind of got like you guys know what a wife beater is. But it's very like almost like redneck, but like farming. And he had like jeans on. He might have had jorts on, which are jean shorts, but I think he just had jeans on. And his hair was all moppy, long hair or whatever. And he shows up, and the instructor's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, I'm here for the academy." Oh yeah. By the way, he drove like one of those cars that were like the Scooby Doo car, like the Shaggy car. Look up what that is. What is a hippie van? Volkswagen. I can't get the name of it. Yeah, just a Volkswagen. Oh yeah, Volkswagen bus. That's what he had. So he shows up, and the instructor immediately says, "Okay, well, you're not gonna be sitting in today. You're gonna be doing push-ups and sit-ups." So he had to do hundreds and hundreds of push-ups and sit-ups, and that's the first time they met. So like bad boy kind of meets like good girl, I would say. Um, but that's where they came from, and that's how I was brought up. I was brought up with two police officers, working nighttime for the longest time. So I always had babysitters around. So I had multiple people raising me. I had like Granny, who was this just wonderful, uh, beautiful, not like so much physically, but like mentally and emotionally, just a beautiful black woman, African American woman. And I say that because a lot of my childhood, I was brought up predominantly around African American community. So I got culture from the African American world, and then a white, more suburban culture as I moved out here to where I currently live. But growing up, it was a mix. And like I wasn't even aware of I didn't even know what like racism was. I didn't even know what like it meant to like have hatred um for an opposite ethnic group. I had no idea what that meant. Like I didn't know that literally just because of the melatonin in your skin, you were, you know, melanoma. No, melatonin, melanin. Yeah, melanin. Sorry about that. I just didn't want to get like the wrong word. I didn't know like there was different like prejudice towards different sects of the population. It just never crossed my mind. Anyways, so I guess the person that's sitting here right now, I was brought up on both sides. Like I remember going to like a swimming class, and I was the only white kid in the swimming class. Which, looking back at it now, it's still not, it's not weird. It's not weird, but it's different. Especially if I go to swimming class now, it's a majority Caucasians, and they used to call me like like snowman. Every once in a while, like Snowball, Snow White, anything that had to do with snow. And I, I didn't think anything of it. And my parents were the farthest thing from racist. Like, I mean, the farthest thing. My mom grew up in a very rough neighborhood. A lot of African Americans, a lot of Hispanics, a lot of just tough, dangerous Caucasians too. And it was basically survive. Asians, a lot of Middle Easterners. Um, so I was just brought up in my neighborhood I grew up in too. So I was just brought up in a world where culture was human. Culture wasn't ethnic groups. I gotta write that down. You like that? I thought that was cool. Culture was human, not ethnic groups. I always like to like write and like save certain things I come up with in my brain. Anyways, so that's long story short. That's the background of my parents. But I do want to get them on here, and those are the two people obviously who raised me, and that's the flag right there. My dad actually made that. He made that for I think for himself. I'm not too sure. I don't know. I don't know who. I think he made it for himself. It was in the garage, so I just kind of brought it up here. I don't know if he wants it still. If he wants it, I'll give it back to him. But he also made one for my girlfriend who was a firefighter with a thin red line through it. So that's what that's about, and that's kind of I'm proud to come from two police officers. But I'm also not the person who will deny violence from police officers. Like I'm not dumb in that sense. Like I realize it's an issue for a lot of people, and I understand it's just systematic racism. Like I get it, and I'm not trying to say that I'm super proud that my parent. I mean, I'm not trying to say that my parents are cops so they're better than yours, but I'm just trying to explain things around me and kind of who I am. And that's kind of where I come from. That's my stance on that, and that's what that means to me. I'm proud of that, and I'm proud to where my parents are and how their relationship has gone. I think they're married for almost 30 years, 28 years, something like that, and I look up to them. I think a lot of people. I never was a kid who went through a phase of embarrassment. I definitely sometimes it wasn't embarrassed, but I was confused that what my parents did was so much different. Now I wouldn't say like special, but just different. Um, but I'm proud of it, and I wouldn't have it any other way, obviously. And I learned a lot. And there's a lot of things that I pick up on, things that I do that I think I've taught to people and they don't do. Like, um, if just things I watch my dad do, especially my dad. My mom was more of, and she still is, she was a police officer, but she was really good at just drawing the line between police officer and a mother or a caretaker or whatever, or being a daughter. And so when you saw her, she didn't act like a cop. And it's really hard to explain what that means unless you know a cop, but she didn't act like a police officer. My dad, on the other hand, it was more of a gray line. It wasn't black and white. It was like black cop world, white civilian world, and in the middle it was gray. Things overlap sometimes, um, which was good for me. Sometimes it was weird. Like there'd be times where we're just driving along, going fishing, or going back from fishing and going out to get a bite to eat, and my dad would just like pull over and help. Yeah, I think he should, but like he would just do a lot of things that a police officer would do, whether it be help somebody off the side of the road, somebody out of gas, and in his unmarked car, he would sometimes pull people over if they were being recklessly driving, and wouldn't give them a ticket, but just, hey man, don't want you to hurt yourself. And so I watched this, and I grew up like this, and I always understood that there was evil in the world, and that there was bad in the world. And I think a lot of parents, and this is something I'm blessed for, is that I had that. But I think a lot of people almost don't understand that there's bad in the world. And when something really bad happens, it's very shocking. And they don't know how to really do it. They don't know how to control their emotions with it. Like, it's hard to, when you see something really evil, like whether it be Adolf Hitler, or whether it be Mussolini, or whether it be Kim Jong-un, or whatever it is, or just, the gentleman at Parkland, or the guy in Las Vegas, it's really hard to make that connection. Like, that's a human doing that. So I think I was blessed to understand that, you know what, it'd be a flip of the coin. And if I take in something as a child a different way than somebody else does, that's evil. That person will grow up to be evil. And you can't save anybody. And I really understand from an early age, there's evil in the world, and there's some bad people in the world. And I think that's kind of, being a bad person nowadays isn't really like a real thing. It's almost like you're bad because of this. It's like, no, sometimes you're bad, yes, because of that, and yes, because of this environmental factor, and yes, because of this genetic coding in your body that, has been activated. But at least from what I've been told, talking to my father and other police officers, and it wasn't just cops to grow up with. I grew up with a lot of people high up in whether it be the FBI, CIA. Sometimes there's people in this world, especially when you throw in like ideologies and you throw in like religious viewpoints, or even just like social viewpoints, or whether it be socioeconomic viewpoints, which is the root of a lot of evil, socioeconomic standpoints, especially money. And that's what that means. Like your social class, depending on your economic class. Like, you can be in an all-white community, and if there's one African American family there, I mean, we all have seen it. We all have heard it. Like, you hear people saying, "Oh, you talk white," talking to an African American. You talk like a white person, or you hear like a white Caucasian person, like, "Oh, you're trying to act black," and it's like, culture doesn't see ethnic group. I don't think so. I don't think that's how it works. And it's like, I understood from early age that there's evil in the world, and that by someone's race and someone's religious viewpoints, you can't judge. Like, you can't judge. And I think sometimes the biggest issue, I mean, if you look in the Middle East, everyone looks the same. Like, when it comes to skin, if we're talking ethnic, we're talking race, but so much evil out there. So how much of it is skin? How much is it race? Or how much of it can just simply be, it's not simple, but an ideology, a viewpoint on the same religion, Catholic faith. You have extreme Nazis. I wouldn't say Catholic, but like the idea that God wants only white people. Then you can have the other viewpoint, which is my grandmother, who just loved everybody. So you take like these two, the extremes can just dictate so many people. And I understood that people will die for their ideology. It's always happened. And I think that being brought up in that environment, I just had no hatred towards anybody. So I knew everybody, and everyone knew, and I had a relationship with everybody, ethnically. And I didn't know better. But that's what that is, and that's just kind of an intro to my parents. And then you have like my grandmother, who I've always been somebody who, if negative things happen, I've always been the person people go to, because I've always been really good at not hiding my feelings, but just not letting my feelings affect somebody else's. And I remember when my grandma passed away, 2016, it was not easy for me. Um, so for the first few weeks or whatever, I act like it was super easy for me, which made it super hard for me in the long run. Like I thought it was super easy, and angels. Some people believe in guardian angels. Um, I don't know if I believe in guardian angels, but I believe that my grandmother, if anybody was an angel, she would be an angel. Just a great woman, just loving, caring, laughing all the time. She's the reason why I still tell people I have faith, because I can't deny certain feelings I get at certain times in my life, whether it be like when I was going through a rough patch with my girlfriend, or whether it be when money's just not coming in the right way and I'm trying to invest in things and it's just not working, or whether it be my decision to drop out of school. Like I always hear her first. And then I react. She, I don't know what that is. Like, what is that? I don't know. I don't know if it's not a god. I don't think it's a god. I don't know if it's a spirit, but it's a voice. And it's like I've heard her voice so many times, and this my brain's everywhere right now. But you know how like nowadays you can like take like if somebody, let's just say Joe Rogan for example, he has a lot of podcasts out there when you hear him talk. So you can take he's said tens of thousands, probably 100,000 plus words, almost a million words. And you could take all these words and you can put them together. You make them sound like something. I heard my grandma talk a lot. I mean, 19, 18 years of my life. And so I don't know if it's a spirit, more or less, is it just all the words that she's ever said at certain points in my life, they come together. The words just come together. They're back here in my head. Like I have memories of her. And I remember the things she said to me more than what I saw. And it's like, what would she say? Because there's been many different things, like whether it be what I went through with my girlfriend, or what happened with my first girlfriend, and how that ended and how that really hurt me at an emotional level. That took years to finally figure out. Or whether it be like my decision to drop out of college, or whether it be, man, my parents just, I don't think they understand what I'm doing. If you could take all the situations, that would be like plan A. There was like different ranks that might have led up to plan A. And so very similar situations. And I can hear exactly what she would say. And if I couldn't hear all of it, I would fill in the words with what she would say. And I don't know if that's a spirit. I don't know what that is, but I do know it's real to me. I don't know where I'm going with this, but so when she passed away, it was so hard because I don't think I got enough words from her. I don't think I got enough memories with her. And I have like this weird diversion to like anything with like the lips, whether it come to food or drinks or food coming out of your mouth. And I have a really weird relationship with food. I always got to eat. I usually eat by myself, which I try not to do anymore. And food is like the center point of the meal. When I don't think that should be the case. I think the center point of the meal should be understanding that you're feeling your body and people around you, just like for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. And you see it in animals all the time. Not many animals eat in isolation, and the ones that do are quote unquote evil, sharks. I don't know what I was saying, but yeah, I almost feel guilty that I didn't get enough from her. I didn't get enough from her, man. You know. Another thing I've always done, like with my grandpa, with my mom's mom, I never met the guy. I mean, he was gone before my mom was probably even thinking about having kids. But I feel like I know him. It's the weirdest thing. It's the fucking weirdest thing, man. I feel like I know him. I've even told people that, yeah, no, I met my grandpa. I've told people that. It's like, yeah, you're lying, but I don't know. I don't feel like I am. I feel like I know exactly who he would be. Like, I feel like I know exactly who he would be. And just having a cigar, just drinking his whiskey, and just sitting there with a piece of straw hanging out of his mouth, and with a hat on, just crooked, but like a trucker's hat. Like he was a trucker after the military. That's what he did. He was a trucker, so he just drove across country all the time, traveled everywhere. I mean, during World War II, he was probably everywhere. And then World War II is probably everywhere. And then like he got out of that and he was just a trucker, man. And so my grandma like traveled the whole fucking country, um, just with him, just with him. And I feel like I know exactly who it would be. And I think the person that he was, as he was passing away and dying, I I feel like that's gonna be me. Um, just like seems like a good person, just with vices that he couldn't control. And I think time and place, it just wasn't, the technology and medication and medicine wasn't there to help him. Like antidepressants just weren't there, and I think he's somebody who would have done really well with them. I think like microdosing um, acid or LSD or psilocybin would have helped him. I think he was an alcoholic because nothing was there, and PTSD was there, but no one really knew what it was. Like, um, 1980, the American Psychiatric Association added PTSD to the third edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Nosologic classification scheme, although controversial when first introduced, the PTSD diagnosis has filled an important gap in psychiatric theory and practice. So it wasn't even a thing. But I like him. I love him. I don't know him. I see pictures all the time. I got to show you guys some eventually, but I see pictures of him all the time. I feel like I love him. I'm looking at a picture right now of the famous Carlton Fisk. He's going like this, waving for the baseball to go fair, and that's a picture I think I should have put up on my wall. I might make room. I really like this thing though. Love him. Don't know him. So what does that mean? What is that? Is that a spirit? Is that a god? Is that religion? I don't fucking know, man. I don't want to know. I don't need a verification of what that is. Because to me that's just as real as if I flick my finger and I could feel that pain. I can hear his voice. I don't know. I could fill in what I think his voice sounded like, man. And I can hear her. And she had a stroke. So she had like her head was always moving like this. Um Older people who have uncontrollable movement in their head. Yeah, so I don't know. This is crazy. I don't know if she had Parkinson's disease, but she had something where I think it was a stroke. She might have had a tumor. I don't know. Like I don't actually know exactly how she died. I gotta ask. I've always been told it was just like time for her to go. So she might have had Parkinson's, but it wasn't like she would have like tremors. I don't know if a tremor is. Tremor is involuntary shaking movement ranging from slight to severe and commonly affecting hands, leg, face. So she had tremors, but they were continual tremors, and she had a stroke, and I think that's what caused it. Anyways, and I just remember sitting there. She used to do this thing. She used to do this thing where every every week she used to come over every single day. She had a beat up Honda Civic that I actually got when we had to take away her license, I think in 2014. So I should have had my license 2014. That was 5 years ago. I would have been 17. Yeah, so that was my first car, and I ended up was going way too fast on a back road, and I hit a pile of wet leaves, and I just fucking threw the thing into a guardrail. I remember getting home and I go to my mom, or my mom's like, I don't know, she's coming outside, and I'm shaking. I'm scared shitless because I should have died. Like I should have died. And I made up some bullshit story. I've actually made a bullshit story up twice, and I'm gonna tell you the other one after this. And this podcast is just everywhere, but this is just kind of how I've been feeling today. This rainy weather has got me not down, but just I guess like in my feelings or just thinking and enjoying the little things in life. And I remember I got home and the first thing I did when I got in an accident was I tried to open my car door, and I couldn't open my driving door. And I felt like the whole way home, my car was driving sideways. So I get home and I try to open my door, and I couldn't open the door. So my mom comes outside, and I don't see her. I don't know how long she was there. She might have been there the whole time, and I just drove right past her parking. So my garage is like right here, and this is like where the cars park. So here's a garage, one, two, three cars, and here's a driveway. So I come up the driveway, and she might have been standing right. The garage is open. She might have just watched me come up, and she's another thing is like I don't realize this till right now as I'm talking. Like she's a cop, so she like knows when people are fucking some shit just went down. It's like she's aware of that. She's fucking trained in that. Like I don't know. I didn't mean to, if I made my mom sound like a bad cop. She was a fucking great cop. So good now that she's a chief of a fucking police department. First one ever as a female. She's a fucking badass. And she's standing there, and I get out of the car, and she's like, Mike, what's going on? And I'm like, she's like, and I didn't even explain about the car door. I was like, I was driving in this fucking 18-wheeler, which I'm on a back road, backed out of the driveway, and I saw it, and I had to swerve off to the left lane as I was getting into the left lane because it's a one-way road. So I'm going this way, car's going this way. I say that an 18-wheeler is backing up, and I didn't see it, which if that is true, I shouldn't have been going that fast. It was a 30-mile-per-hour road. I was probably going 70. And just a dumb fucking move. And so I said I had to veer off to the left, and I veered off to the left, but a car was coming, so I had to shoot off to the right, and my only option was to run into the guardrail. And this is something my parents always did when I was younger, and I'm so blessed that they did this. She wasn't that mad at me. My parents were really good, and they still are. They don't get mad for what you did. They don't get mad about it because it's hard to get mad at something when you could have done it or you might have done it before. And I don't think it's about, and this is always what I think hopefully I can take on for my kids. This is not about getting mad. You don't really want to be angry with them. And especially with something like that, you want to just make sure that they're okay. And that's a moment to bond closer with your kids and make them realize, hey, what you did was probably not the smartest move. And, I'm not going to get mad at you about it, but you can't do that. You saw how quick that car just spun out and you hit the fucking guardrail. And so she just went along with the story, and she held me, and I cried, and I was shaking, and she knew something was up, and my body language was lying enough. So I didn't have to tell her. That was so I got that car, and it smelled like mothballs, and I had to get rid of it. It was totaled, and then my parents got me a car, which I help pay a little bit, but not too much, from someone in our neighborhood. And that car I just recently had to get rid of. So I'm on my third car. I just bought a 2015 Nissan Altima, I think for $22,000, which is like my first loan I've ever taken out, which is kind of stressful for me. I've always worked in restaurants, so I always had cash. So I always bought things cash. So I've never really had a loan. And I got my fucking wallet stolen this past week, which is awesome. Got everything back though, and I also got a really good ID, like good picture. Anyways, so that was my grandma. So I always have like these visions of who they were. And I love that, man. I love that, and I don't know what that is. Like I read all these books, like whether it be Behave or whether it be Sapiens or whether it be Homo Deus or whether it be Think and Grow Rich. I want to read this one, The Male Brain. I want to read The Human Instinct really bad. I want to read Elastic really bad. But I got to finish up Steven Pinker, How the Mind Works, which I'm almost done. But I also got to study for my personal training test sooner than later. I stopped looking at my phone. I'm a fucking addict. But yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't need it to be verified. Oh, this is what you have. This is what this is called. Like, I don't need that shit, but that's there. And I feel like I know my grandpa, and I feel like I know my grandma really well. And then my dad's parents, I don't know that well, and it's sad because my grandpa has Alzheimer's pretty bad, and he's also a veteran. I think he's a veteran. I don't mean that to like, oh, you don't know what your grandpa is. I think he was CIA, I'm pretty sure, or FBI. No, definitely not FBI. I think he was CIA, and he was during the Cold War, so he did a lot of traveling. He's not really allowed to talk about what he did, but we never really had a connection per se. And so my great grandfather actually committed suicide, which was his dad, and it's a touchy subject, but I think it's important. he committed suicide. Very awful way. I'm just gonna say it. He got on top of a horse, put a rope around his neck. He's a farmer. I think in Illinois, Wisconsin. My great grandfather. I actually knew my great grandmother, which was my dad's mom's mom. So not this guy, not the wife of this guy I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure it was my dad's grandfather, or it was my grandfather's grandfather. But I think it was my dad's grandfather, so it would have been my great grandfather. And I was so lucky to know my great grandmother, even though she had Alzheimer's and she didn't know who I was. So Alzheimer's runs in the family. Something I need to be aware of, and this is all stuff I figured out when I was in therapy. So my mom's mom, my grandma, she was probably the most mentally healthy person. My grandpa, suffered from PTSD, definitely a tendency towards alcoholic, a lot of environmental things that impacted that, but still that. And then my grandpa, he doesn't suffer from anything really, but my great grandfather did, and he took his life, and he did it in a very horrifying way. He sat on top of a horse, put a rope around his neck, sat on top of the horse, took a gun, shot himself in the head, tied the rope above a barn, sat on top of the horse. He shot himself in the head, and if the bullet didn't kill him, since he was sitting on top of the horse would run away, since horses are scared of any noise, and a bullet would definitely scare the shit out of them. The horse ran and he dropped. So it was either he shot, bullet through the head, died, or his neck broke. But I don't know where I was going with that. But so even with my grandma and my grandpa, I just had to be aware of certain things, and I think a lot of people do have to be aware of certain things. I think you got to be aware of your kinship, where you come from, and certain people in your life, and understanding that things are a reality. And I think it's important to really understand that you could be, things can come up in your life. And like I said, that's a lot about my grandma and grandpa. I don't know them too well. I know well enough, in the sense that I know I love them. Which I think for a lot of people, some people don't know if they love their people in their life. But I know I've really loved them as people. And I always knew that. And I always knew that they were special to me. I really care about them. Yeah, so that's a little bit about the background, 45 minutes into it, but that's kind of what that is. So I really do take pride in that. And I always will. I always will take pride in that. I always will take pride in that. The middle one is something my girlfriend made for me 2 years ago, and I'll just go ahead and read it real quick. I don't know if you guys can read it. I think I'm blocking it. Elon Musk is somebody who I absolutely love. It says, starting a company is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. If you feel like you are up for that, then start a company. And I own a company called Silence Fitness, which is a clothing company. It's been a little slow lately, but just a lot of things going on. And it's a company that I started, and I've always been somebody who always wanted to start my own thing, especially growing up with parents who didn't go to college. I was like, well, fuck, why would I go to college? I don't get it. And it was just recently when I realized, I'm not going to college to get a job, which I think is weird for a lot of people when they hear that. But I'm not. I'm going to college to take care of my brain, especially genetically. If you look at, there's a few things I said. Coffee's not hot anymore. I'm going to school to protect my brain, and it's not that expensive since I go to a smaller school. I go to Towson University, which is after scholarships, $4,000 a semester, which is $32,000, which since I'm working full time, I can pay that as I go. But even the money, it's so valuable. I think your ability and I was getting so mad. God, even now I get pissed off, such a spoiled fuckface. I'm not going to college, I'm not going to college. Go to college, bro. Why not? Dude, there's not many things in life where it's society's hey man, take 4 years off. You don't even need to get a job. We don't give a fuck what you do. Drink all the alcohol. You're not even 21. We don't give a fuck. Do whatever you want. Do crazy shit. Get arrested. We don't care. It's what you do. There's not another time in your life where you can do that. And I missed that time. I went to college. I've only taken a semester and a half off from college, but I've been graduated since I'm 17. I'm 22. I think I'm maybe a junior right now. So that goes to show you that I bounced around from Towson, the ACC, Towson, which is a community college, to Towson University. Anne Arundel Community College, Towson University, Anne Arundel Community College, just back and forth. And so I finally figured out what I wanted to. I switch my major all the time. What I wanted to do was not get a degree. The degree is what I think a lot of people go to college for. What I wanted was to just keep my brain going and keep my mind thinking and learning new things. And that is why I'm in college. But that right there is something I really believe in. And that's with anything. Like, that's how starting a business was. You got to realize, like, so when a lot of people start a business, I didn't go into the business. It's so cliche, but money was not the fucking thing. Like, it was not. Money to me, and this is something I'm blessed for, and I don't know if this is from my parents or just from my understanding of what money is. Money is just the tool that's used to exchange for something. And what I think is super valuable, someone else may think has no value. I can get it for quote unquote cheap. To the other person is cheaper. For me, it has no value. You know, it has no value. And I understood from early age that money is just the bridge that allows you to get to where you want to be to where you are. So you can either invest it, you can either make it from like one stream of revenue. Like I trade my time for money, which is like a job. You can put it into, so you can invest it, whether it be a job or a business or stock market, whatever. You can make it just straight 101. You can make it work for you. You can put it in certain bank accounts and watch it grow. There's so many things you can do with money. You can make it illegally. You make it legally, like, and it's just a bridge. That's all it is. And I knew that from an early age. So I knew when I was starting this business that I needed to make money, not in the sense that I was gonna pocket it and buy myself a fucking Rolls Royce, but I knew it in the sense that I needed to make money and I needed to work a lot so I could start up this thing. And I did, and it's still up. And if you guys go to www.silencefitness.com, you'll see it right there. And I love it because it's so true. For the first like 2 years, it hasn't been 2 years, but like for the first year, everyone like tells you for the first like 6 months, like, oh, good job, you're starting a company, so proud of you, proud. Everyone's like bragging. But then you realize, fuck, man, I have a company, and the only people, like most people that supported me, like a lot of mental and emotional support, which is cool and fun and all, but like at the end of the day, your goal as a company is to make money, right? Because that's why you started a company. Because instead of hopefully working 101 for your entire life, you trade your time for money. You want to eventually hopefully make a passive income. And then so like you realize, fuck, the people that are really supporting me, I don't really know these people. Australia is purchasing from me, Europe, Latvia. Um, but yeah, you just chew glass. Like you don't know what you're doing. Like with this podcast, I didn't know what I was really doing, but I have it now. Like I spent almost $3,000, but I have it now. And I'm not sad about the $3,000 because if I didn't spend $3,000, I wouldn't be here doing it. And I love it. So like that's what that is about. It's just chewing glass, and my girlfriend made that for me. And I'm in that picture, I'm like 225. It's like one of my first sweatshirts, and it's true. You just when you start something, if you go into, and it's so cheesy, but it's so true. If you go into if your business is a business first and a passion project second, you're never going to turn it into a business. You got to have a true passion behind it, and then it will grow into a business. And your passions can always change, but you got to really just want to do it, or you won't do it, because it won't blow up. Just won't. I mean, every once in a while somebody does, but that's just not the reality of it. And I think that is really important for people to hear. Don't expect shit to just go crazy, because that's not how it works, man. And it never will work that way. Sometimes it works for some people, but most of the time most of the time won't work. But you got to really truly love it. Yeah. I don't know. That's just a few things that are up there. And then all these books, something I've never really read. I used to go to I used to hmm, I used to go to speech impediment speech therapy class when I was younger, um, which was like weird for me. Like so, like my schooling history, I've always been like not the smartest person, I would say. I've always been so I took all the I guess fancy classes. So I took all the fancy classes. So I took all the APs. I took all the fancy classes. So all the advanced classes. But the ones I didn't ever really do well in English. I never did well in English, and a lot of that I think. So growing up, I was never really read to too much. My mom didn't read a lot of books to me. I think she felt shame that she couldn't read a lot of the books, like pronounce them well. And my dad just he wasn't much of a reader, so I never really grew up reading. So grammar wasn't always in my household as much, I think, as the average person. I was never corrected for grammar, and I just basically, and still to this day, my grammar's not good, and people always correct me, which is fine. I totally get it. I mean, people don't like being corrected that much, but like, I don't mind it. Like, I don't get angry. Um, but even with that being said, it's still like, it's a little weird because, nah, I'm not gonna get into that. But so I had to take speech impediment class because with the ADHD and uh, growing up in a family that was I guess not educated and education was always really important in the household, but it wasn't like hypocritical, but it was more or less like I don't know how. Let me, one second. I always around 12:30 I always text my girlfriend. She texts me and I make her lunch for her, which I love doing. I love making lunch. I always wanted to make like my child's lunch. So like I can kind of test on her. I have always been like that, like I guess quote unquote stay at home mom dad, stay at home dad, whatever. Um, I get a lot of passion out of that. I get a cool feeling out of that. Um, so yeah, I went to speech impediment class, and then I was also tutored a lot. Math is something I was always good at, like like not basic math, but like logical math. So I remember like from early ages, like 6 to 12, I was going into stores with my dad and I. He was really good at math too. So my dad and I would look at percentages, like percentage off. What does that mean? And we would figure out how much percentage off. So if I go in store, it's $100 and 10% off. My dad would be like, "How much are you saving?" And I'd be like, $10, and he'd be like, "How much are they taking off? Or how much is it going to be after you save?" And I would say $90. And I was doing that from like 7 years old, 8 years old. So I was always really good at numbers. I was really always good at math, and I've always been really good at just listening to. Not always, but recently, and I've always actually no, I've always been good at just listening to other people's ideas. And I used to debate them. I don't really debate as much as I used to. Thank God. Um, but it's something I've always been good at. But I've always been embarrassed by my lack of grammar, my lack of vocab, and I never had a grasp on vocab. And it's something I've always like kind of been like instead of fixing it like I would do nowadays, I just kind of was like felt bad for myself. Um, so I never read, and I'll always tell people, "Oh, I'm not a reader. I hate reading." And like we would have to read like a certain amount of books a school year, and I wouldn't do it. I would never read a book. I would always just cheat and look it up online and Cliff Notes everything. But just recently, I've started reading, and I'm reading a lot. So everything started with ADHD, and you can say what you want about it, but it is hard. It's not easy. Like I was going to a grocery store a couple days ago, and I know exactly where the grocery store is, exactly where it is. But I'm literally in my head all day. I was thinking about chimpanzees and like why they are bipedal, but not don't always they don't always want to be bipedal. But like humans were chimpanzees and bipedal won, and I was trying to figure out like why was that. And I was also thinking about like the stoned ape theory, which is a theory by Terence McKenna, which basically says that through the use of psychedelics, it's called the human revolution. Or yeah, I think that's what it's called. Our brain grew like 30 times the size in like such a short period of time. Let me look at that. Revolution. Revolution. Evolution. I don't know what it is, but basically saying like like there was a period of time where like not a lot of time, it was like a couple tens of thousand years, the brain grew so much. Basically, Stone Age theory is that I'm just gonna Google it real quick and tell you guys about it. Excuse me. Terence McKenna believed that the psilocybin mushrooms were the evolutionary catalyst, that's in quotations, from which language, projective imagination, the arts, religion, philosophy, science, and all of human culture sprang. McKenna's hypothesis concerning the influence of psilocybin mushrooms on human evolution of Stone Age theory. Basically, he had this idea that through the psilocybin, which is a mushroom that, and I've never done a drug, like I've never done marijuana, taken CBD oil, I've only drinking a few times, but I haven't done a lot. But I don't think I need to. My brain is usually in that other universe. Like I literally on my thumb, I put human just to remind myself that I'm human. And I'm not, I promise you, I'm not a crazy fucking person, but I do. My mind does go places sometimes where it can get a little scary. And basically, that's what was happening on this car ride. I didn't really I knew exactly where I was going. I was going to pick up some food, but I just kept on going the wrong turn, and it was just because my brain was it was everywhere, it was scattered. So that kind of led me to being anti-book reading, because when I read books, it would be like, I think fiction is fake, right? Fiction. I don't even know how to. It's so bad. Fiction broadly refers to a narrative that is derived from the imagination. Okay, so fiction is false. Well, false in like the reality, but not false in someone's brain, which is their reality, which would make it nonfiction. That's a trip, right? But yeah, like in school, you read a lot of fiction. But I wanted answers to a lot of the things that were coming up in my brain, so I started reading a lot of books, and it led me to a few authors, and I started reading books that I really enjoy, and I've taken a liking to it. And I think it's helped me a lot with like conversations, like listening to people. It's helped me tremendously, and it's something that I've really enjoyed. And I'm proud of these books, and I put them up there not really to show off, but just to like show people, like just because like we have like these concrete like characteristics, like personality traits about people that like we put like cement walls on, but they shouldn't be. They should be like elastic, like that book says. They should be like rubber bands. Like people constantly change. You're an organism that is flowing through this world, and you're conscious most of the time, but you're still an organism. You're still an organism, and you're allowed to change your mind all the time. You're allowed to change what you think about the world. You're allowed to have different opinions. You're allowed to have opinions that are conflicting. Like you're allowed to have those certain type of opinions. And I think a lot of people fall in this idea that they're not allowed to, which is fine, I think, up to a point. But also, you got to realize that sometimes they get set in stone, and sometimes they do damage to you. Like for me, for example, like I truly thought I wasn't intended to read, but that's not true. I know how to read. I can't be bored when I read. I got to read something I enjoy, which is true for everybody. You got to enjoy what you read. And I don't know, it's just like I don't think personality traits and characteristic traits are cool words, in the sense that if someone says you're happy, someone says you're funny, it's like, yeah, but sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm depressed. Sometimes I'm depressed. Sometimes I'm sad. Sometimes I'm angry. But you would still say I'm happy. And you're like, it's like neglecting like a whole different thing. Like you're just you're the accumulation of a bunch of organ systems in your body firing, chemicals firing, neurons just moving, everything just going, different different sensory systems firing at certain times. And it's like, that's what you are. Like you're not anything concrete. You are a person, and you do have dark thoughts, and you do have very dark thoughts, and you do have very happy thoughts, and you have thoughts that are conflicting. Sometimes you have half thought out ideas on certain topics. And I think what's so fascinating is that
people, especially in this day and age, are so quick to just attack and attack and attack. And it's a lot of things has to do with social media, but like Twitter, for example, you don't have to be like an educated, like, used to be for journalism, you were taught like ethics of journalism. And I don't know anything about it, so let me look it up before I start saying shit. Ethics of journalism. So there's a, if you go to www.spj.org, there's a code of ethics. And right there, so right here, preamble. Members of the Society of Professional Journalists believe that the public enlightenment is the forerunner of justice and the foundation of democracy. I would agree. People need to know. Ethical journalism strives to ensure that free exchange of information that is accurate, fair, and thorough. An ethical journalist acts with integrity. The society declares these four principles. Whatever. Principle number 1: seek truth and report it. Couldn't agree more. 2: minimize harm. Couldn't agree more. 3: act independently. Couldn't agree more. Be accountable and transparent. Boom. Now, what happens is you have this software, you have the system that comes in called Twitter, where people don't need to be journalists in the sense that they follow these guidelines and they follow these ethics, which are all good things and they should all be followed, especially if you release any type of information to the public. And then Twitter comes along and just fucking cuts all that. I could literally put out a tweet right now that offends so many people and hurts so many people's feelings, but I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about it because, first of all, my neck's not out there. I could be a fake person. I could be a fake account, and no one's ever gonna know who it was. And it could, if it gets a few retweets, it becomes fucking news. It becomes a real thing. It grows a head. It grows arms. It grows legs. It becomes a real thing. And journalism used to profit off of getting shit into newspapers and getting stuff like printed out magazines on the news channel. And before you get there, you would look into like the facts. So these actually true facts. But now you don't have to do that. Now people get paid, especially media, where it's like, and I used to think media was a complete bullshit. I thought that it was stupid, because I didn't grow up around I don't want to say liberal, but I didn't grow up around a literacy advanced family environment. So I thought it was complete nonsense. Like I thought, oh, you guys write in the magazines, you fucking stupid. Your newspaper is stupid. But it turns out that's not true. That's how you get information out, and that's important. It's really important, Michael. And but Twitter comes along and you can just say shit without having any ethical backing to it, with having a complete idea to do harm to people. And I think that's not, I don't think that's just not good. And then if people start believing in that, then they develop these ideas that are so concrete and false truth and not false truth, but false things, and things that aren't fucking real, that are not real and absolutely fake. And it's like one of the sayings where it's like, that's not good. And I don't know where I was going with that, but this is not good. And so I like to read these books because it allows me to actually have a grasp on a certain subject, and they're quote unquote smart people who I'm reading, like Robert Sapolsky, professor at Stanford, neurobiology department. He's a primatologist, 30 years plus. Steven Pinker, who's been in the news lately, but he's a psychologist, a linguist at University of Harvard. These are intelligent people, which even like intelligence is weird because it's like, I'm super, like, if Steven Pinker worked out with me, I would know a lot about how to gain muscle. He would know how to do it, but would he know how to do it? Like put on muscle? Yes, but would he do it? Probably not. So there's certain things that I know that make me super intelligent, but in a popular niche. He is a master in a small niche, or a niche that is expensive to get into, and that's why he's so intelligent at this specific thing. But you are very intelligent in whatever it is, painting or whatever the hell it is. Like that's intelligence. Like, especially nowadays with the laptops and phones, you don't have to be like the smartest person. You could just retain information, just spew it out whenever you want to. One second. Yeah, you just, I don't know. I don't know. People just define themselves way too quickly. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. I think what's fair is to understand that you are the result of not the result, but you are part of something that's absolutely beautiful, which makes you beautiful. So like I always tell people, and it's fucking weird. I mean, I know it's weird. It's weird. But like I always tell people, hey man, like especially when people get really down on themselves. And I don't think it's wrong to get down on yourself. I think it's good to get down on yourself, and especially people who don't get down on themselves, we have words for that. We call those narcissistic people, sociopaths, people who never think they do anything wrong. So it's good to get down on yourself. Now it becomes dangerous when you get down on yourself too much and you start self-harming yourself, physically, definitely mentally, emotionally. That's when it gets a little dangerous. And then if you get caught in a cycle and you can't find something to pull yourself out of, that's when things are needed: therapy, medication, whatever it is, support group, whatever it is, programs. Um, but I think understanding, like feeling these waves of emotion come in that are quote unquote negative or quote unquote positive, is so important to just let in and just work with them and understand them and develop techniques like write shit down. And the one thing that you can't do is you cannot, and this is will make you depressed and this will hurt you, is trying to constantly compare yourself to other people, not in the sense of like, oh, don't compare yourself, but in the sense of this person has that and I don't have this, and this is why I don't have it, and this is why they have it. You can be poor, you can be born into a very rough environment, and that's bad. But you can also be born into a very, very wealthy environment, and that's bad. Neither one, you don't really have an identity. At least from the poor family, you can, whatever you do that's moderately successful is worshipped. When you are born into a really wealthy family, whatever you do, cool. Your father's a multi-billionaire. Your mother's a fucking prince. She's a goddamn queen of something. She's a princess. She's a billionaire, Mongol. And it's like, you just cannot do that. Like, you have to stop that, because that shit will hold you back. That shit would depress you, because you can, and you know the worst part about it is you can find so many things to compare yourself to, and it is a real thing, and people do it. I've done it, but it's not good. You got to understand that you are the same way that people make up a society, and as a society, or let me try to break this down. So the same way, there's cells in your organs that make up an organ. So within your heart, there's different systems, there's different things that make up your heart, and so your heart beats because of the systems that are working in your body. And within those systems, there's different systems, and so there goes cell, systems, heart. That's what it is. That is it. So your heart isn't good or bad; it just does what it does. You, as a human being, you are the cells. There's hearts, there's liver, the stomach, all become cells, and they make up you. They make up you as a person. So you are just that. That's what you are. You're a person. And depending on things that you take in, or things that happen to you as an individual growing up, or even in your adult life, or certain genetics that turn on and off, or that you're predisposed to, and whatever, those impact you. But you are that accumulation of all these organs working. You are a individual. You are a thing. And you have different traits about you. Tall, fat, or not fat, but like tall, small, big boned, like having thick bones, like being a mesomorph or being an endomorph, or, you know, having the ability to, like, let's say you are, I'm not an expert on these, so I don't want to say them, but let's just say you are a larger human being, because your genes come from, your ancestors came from Scandinavia, which is a cold place, so adaptations happen to your body, and so you are a thicker person because it's cold as fuck up there. You probably wouldn't do too well in Australia. You probably wouldn't do too well in Florida. You probably wouldn't do too well in these places. And that, literally, the weather will affect your brain. But if you go up to, you know, Scandinavia, or a Scandinavian country, Iceland or whatever, Greenland, you would do better. Let me look that up. don't want to lie to you guys. Denmark, Norway, Sweden. Oh, I got one. Iceland. Greenland's not up there. Okay, so if you have Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, you're cold. It's cold up there. It's very cold up there. So like you would adapt, and your body would be more used to that. There's nothing wrong with that, but like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is anything that you have in your brain, anything that you think is true or right, or any emotions that you have, just understand that they are there and they're real to you. And instead of just saying that's not who I am or this is how I'm feeling at this or this is where I am, try to process everything and understand. And also another thing that's really important is to understand that other people have like their own insecurities, and you see it a lot with like parents and their children. Like a lot of parents dump their insecurities off to the kids, and it's really hard on the family dynamic, and it's very hard on the kid because the kid looks up to your parents with all the answers. But a parent can be flawed, a best friend can be flawed, a teacher can be flawed, a coach can be flawed. You hear it all the time. It happens all the time in the news. And then the kid will feel guilty about it because they know like deep down inside that maybe what they're being told or what they're being taught is not right. It's maybe a little wrong and maybe a little strange, but you don't want to say that because then you're going against what your parents say, and they're everything, right? They gave you life, right? So it can get weird sometimes, but just having that like ability to understand that everything that's flowing into you all day from all your sensories, from everything around you is what it is, and you got to take it in, not with black and white, this is that is this, but this is this now, and it could be that later. It's a flow. It's ebb and flow. That's what life is. I am an individual. I am the cell that makes up this country, which is the liver. Somebody who lives in Australia is a person. They're a cell that makes up the stomach, and then Europe, and then Asia, and then Africa. And when I said our country, I meant North America, Asia, whatever. They all make up these certain important organs, and together it makes up a quote-unquote human, or together it makes this survive, the civilization, this group of people. And it's like that's what it is. That's what we are. We aren't, you wouldn't get mad at your body for like I don't get mad at my liver because it didn't detox the alcohol as well. Like I wouldn't get mad at my body because I'd be like, oh, I'm extra hungover this morning. What the hell is my liver doing? Let's go check out my liver. Let's see what's going on with my liver. Even though that's what you should do, right? No. You get mad. You get upset. Like, fuck, dude, I drank so much. God damn it. Why did I drink so much? I'm hungover. Like, damn it. So, like, the same way where we attack, like, these different cultures and we attack these different societies and we attack these different religious groups, it's like you wouldn't get mad at your liver. So why would you get mad at these people who have these thoughts? You got to understand these thoughts are not exactly them. They are them. They are them because they're acting upon them, but they are just thoughts. Most of the time, imaginations, gods, those are imaginations. Those are things that we create in our head. And in a collective group, we follow them and we funnel them into a path. But you got to understand, and they become a real thing. And then people die, and that's real, man. You took a heart. You took a beating heart. You took a son. You took a daughter. You took a father. You took a mother. You took a grandmother, a grandfather. You took a person, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever. You took a person and they become a real thing. But instead of looking at these groups of populations and saying, fuck those people are bad, or those people suck, those aren't my people, this isn't my America, this isn't. It is your fault. It is your issue. If you're not talking about it, you're doing wrong. You got to talk about these. And I got this podcast because I want to talk about things that are sketchy topics, or not sketchy, but things that people don't want to talk about because it makes them uncomfortable. And I get uncomfortable talking about them, but I think I can admit when I'm wrong, but like cultures and different societies and like countries, they're all just like different organs inside of a human body that make up the human body to function well. And if one organ's not functioning well, it's a domino effect, and then it affects everybody. So it's like we all need to help each other. It's like building a wall. Cool. I understand what you're doing, which also is it's always a weird thing when people are like, build that wall. And you see like certain things on CNN or Fox, and like people are like building a wall, and like the pictures they show are Mexicans jumping over a wall. while the caption is build a wall. It's like, hey guys, there's a wall. There's a wall. Hey, there's a wall there already. What are we building? Are we redoing the wall? Are we making the wall taller? What are we doing? I heard a story that like apparently illegal immigrants are just flying to Canada and then just walking back into the United States or something like that. Like just going up there as like a residency and then just walking in the United States. Like the Canadian border is hilarious with the United States. It's not really a border. You can like if you're going out hunting or like picking berries and you know someone who lives like in North Dakota way up north or like Minnesota right on the border of Canada, you can just like accidentally walk into Canada and like they might send you back if they catch you, but they may never know. But it's like these people, I think these groups, these radical groups, they think I'm radical for sitting on a camera and just talking about whatever the fuck I want. I'm wasting my time for a lot of religious groups. You're not worshiping something? Yo, and I understand that. Like I understand their viewpoint. I'm a fucking crazy person. I'm wasting my time talking to a camera, right? I may look at them and say, "Oh, you're killing all your people. What are you doing, you crazy person?" Oh, hey, you're talking to nobody. You're talking to a camera. You're wasting your time. You're not helping anybody. It's like you point your finger and there's three fingers pointing back at you. Like that is a real thing. Like it's true. And it's like, how do you fix it? Well, you fix it by understanding that we're all people first off, and two, we're all just big babies that have been touched by certain groups of society, and we've taken in information and we have not taken in certain information, whatever the reason is for that. And three, it's where we are right now. The person I was a year and a half ago is not the person sitting here right now. And I think understanding that is so important. Understanding that like blue versus red, Democrat versus Republican is a ridiculous thing. It's ridiculous. What is it? What is it? It's so strange. Such a strange thing. Like we have teams and it's like, I mean, shit can blow up in a different country. And it's like, oh, we had 300 people die from a bombing in whatever, Somalia or whatever, a country in Africa, Eastern Africa countries. Bomb. So like just I don't know. It's like, oh, it didn't happen here in my dirt. It's just wrong. We're all people. And I don't believe in peace. Like that's the thing is I understand peace. I understand the idea of it. I understand that peace is a real thing. But like in order to have peace, you're making the conclusion that within people there's peace. I don't think so. I think the ability to just not act on evil thoughts is peaceful. Like, but there's always gonna be evil. There's always gonna be bad things. But being able to like put your arm out and help somebody off the side of the cliff when they need it is so important. I believe in that shit, man. I do. I believe in that shit wholeheartedly. I don't know. I really do. But I think I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a little bit different. Like, I guess in the sense of different stuff around me. Like my little monkey friends. I didn't even get to them, but I love my little chimpanzees up there. That's my dad's baseball hat when he played ball when he was younger. It doesn't fit my head, and I'm 22, so I would say 10. It doesn't fit my head at all. I think I would say between 8 to 12 he was. Beltsville, Maryland. Dropping locations. I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast here, though, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Episode 3 is over, and I will see you guys in episode 4. If you guys enjoyed it, please like. The next episode will be episode 4. This was episode 3. Hopefully to have guests relatively soon. But yeah, guys, if you guys are enjoying these, the best way to help the podcast grow is to like, subscribe, comment on it, share it. I will put it on Facebook and whatnot. Please share it there. Also, I will. It should be up on every major platform as of where podcasts are. So Spotify, Apple. I don't think SoundCloud, but just different ones. So if you guys watch anything, please just share it there, like it, leave positive or negative, whatever you guys want, ratings. comments. But yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go. If you guys enjoyed the episode, I will catch you guys in episode 4. Have yourself a great and blessed, beautiful day.